Hey everybody. Wow, a lot of people on today. A lot of people on today. Let me know that you can hear everything, that you can hear the mic. And you can hear the guitar. And we'll move this over and say hi to everybody. Let me say hi to Matt, my bud. He's always here. Always first. Hey Matt, shout out to you. Try a guitar blues backing track without using bends, but you can do it. Why though? You could play like a jazz blues, then you don't have to bend so much. All right, Max Josephson. Hey, hi, hello to you. El Rondo, hello to you. As always, great to see you. Hope you're feeling well. Ron Shack, buddy, good to see you as well. Scott Taylor, hello. Frank Anthony Pascarella. Hello to you. Hello, Pappy Moonshine. Gary, how you doing? And let's see who else we have on. Okay, well, we've got a few. Charles, hello to you. And Jeff, hey, I saw what you posted, Jeff. Really enjoyed it. You got great tone on that and good vibe. Really good vibe on that Dire Straits song. Always good. TBA, hello. David Smith, hello. Highly Strung 1000, hi. Neil, good to see you. And Climb Tibet, wow. Climb Tibet, hello to you. All right, well, let's take the whale off and get to whaling a little bit. Let's see if there's any. I don't see any of the plaid shirts back. Yeah, we got multiple plaid shirts. Hey, Siebes, how you doing? Let's see. We're going to do a little bit of improv today, and we'll do Q&A, and I'm going to show you how to do a multiple mode thing, a real simple one. So we'll see if I can remember that one. I was messing around with that this morning. And but first, I want to say to everybody, thank you, of course, for any donations that you gave. Always appreciate it. I got a few this week, which is always good. Whether you give them here or give them outside, always appreciated. Always appreciated. And for those who bought the courses, that's always appreciated too. Some big news coming up with that stuff, but not for today, but pretty soon. All right. So there is that. And just thank you to everybody for coming here. If you haven't yet, I urge you to, if you're on Facebook, join Joy of Guitar or The Joy of Guitar. You can just go there and search it. I should put a link in the stuff below, but I forgot this morning, so it's not there right now. I'll put it there afterward. I'll put a link to The Joy of Guitar and some other stuff as well. So that'll be cool. And yeah, it's just a good vibe there. A lot of us having fun, and it's easy, much easier to ask questions or to make a request than send me email and stuff like that. And much more responsive, much easier for me for sure, because I just have to check, one place instead of many. So El Rondo, I will put a link in the description of the video later, but it's just go to Facebook and search Mark Zabel, The Joy of Guitar, and you'll find it. There's multiple Joy of Guitar things. I don't know if there are multiples on Facebook, but you can figure it out. But I will put a link afterward. If you want to go to one of my old videos, you can do it after as well. Most of my newer videos have a link in the description. Hey, Mr. Thomas V. All right, well, if there are no questions, we'll get going with what we're going to cover. I'm going to just do a quick sort of a little funky jam. I've had this thing out and just messing around this morning with this little funky thing. So we'll see how it goes. I'll have a little fun with it. We're just going to jam a little bit in C sharp. Let me get a little bit of twang on here. Maybe. Can you hear that? Sounds kind of quiet to me. Let me take off the... Yeah, that's better. That's better. All right, a bunch of crap on that one. All right, well, anyway, let's work on that one in the meantime. And we can get maybe a funkier sound to it or something like that. But I was just kind of playing around with these chords. I really hurt my nail there in the middle, which hampered. But I like that sort of resolution. All right. So anyway, that's kind of a cool, if you don't know those chords, those are... So just some resolving on the C7, really. All right. Just curious if I do any warm-up exercises. Not today. I'm pretty cold. So I had to do something there. All right. Yeah, I just usually kind of mess around for about 20 minutes. I have some pretty... My hands are really in pain. Have been for quite a while. I take a lot of, let me just say, I take a lot of ibuprofen. And so I do have to warm up quite a bit if I want to play. But the room is pretty warm here, and I've taken ibuprofen, so I should be okay. But just warm it up. I used to do a bunch of warm-up exercises that were really, really simple. I would just take like one... I would just take one scale, for example, like scale form, like say the C position of the major scale, right? So, and let's do it in D. And the idea would be just kind of very slowly play it and move up and down the fretboard. So. And just kind of do that and then come down. And just do that, and just pick your scale. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be, a diminished scale or a whole tone scale. And, it's good for the fingers. But take it slowly. Don't do what I just did there. Do what I did with the major scale and do it very slowly. And, you warm up that way. It's also good, I think, as somebody was talking about this guy in my Facebook group, this doesn't work so well, but he plays things where you really have to stretch. I find that to be not something that I start out with, but maybe if you increase into that, you could do some stretches. Charles S. says that was all pre-planned. Yeah, right. That was all pre-planned. Shouldn't take too many of that, Mark. Well, it's I've been taking unfortunately I've inherited in my family the daily headaches. So since I was about 18, been taking multiples, not necessarily ibuprofen, but make sure it's on a full stomach and all the rest. Anyway, that's that. And I'm out of coffee, too, which sucks. All right, let's do the... what I wanted to do was move to a modal mixture. So I'm going to play it first. So what's a modal mixture? Well, it's simple. It's like, what do you have to do when one scale doesn't fit? Like here, I'm just... what I was doing in the beginning... I'm just playing over a single chord. Right? I'm just playing over a single chord, so I can choose to play, whatever scale works over that chord or whatever chord tones work over that chord. It's very static, and, all I have to do is play, and if I get into a weird, chromatic stuff, all I have to do is make sure I end on the right note. So, for example... that sounds okay. Let me play it right, though. So that sounds good, but a lot of those notes obviously were wrong. So a lot of stuff is really weird there, but as long as I end up on that chord tone, it's fine. And it's static, right? So I don't have to worry too much. But what happens if you're playing a more melodic thing where you can't play a lot of chromatic notes or miss a lot of things, but you want to, but there's a key change in the middle. So that's what we're going to, do. Yeah, my hands aren't really arthritic. But there's a lot of pain, and I don't know, there always has been. I did have a pretty serious injury to my thumb a few years back, and I had to have some surgery on it, a lot of PT, but I gave up fingerstyle. I could still play hybrid, but cut it on of all things, of all the work that I've done in my life, I cut it on a soup can. It was like a really deep cut. And I called up my wife and I was telling her about it, and she said, "Why aren't you at the hospital?" So I went to the hospital. Okay, let's see. Yeah, and it's good to do it. It's good to do it with a metronome too. Climb Tibet was saying, yeah, that's not a bad thing. So I don't tend to do chromatic exercises. We're still on the warm-up exercise, and we'll get to the modal stuff in just a second. I tend to not do a lot of chromatic exercises. I don't know why. I just don't. But that's not bad either, you know. So, you know, whatever. The Steve Howe run. Okay. Let's see. Let's try this modal thing. So the first thing we want to do is listen to it, okay? So let's give it a listen. Okay, so we're just going to keep this really super simple. So this is a nice simple thing. This is a... All right, so that's just the one chord's a C. Then it goes to the 5 chord, which is a G. Then it goes to a 4 chord. Now, normally it'd be an F major, right? And back to the 1. And maybe some other chords as well, but we're keeping it simple. But what if we change that chord's flavor? Instead of playing the 4 chord as a major, played a minor. So how do you play that? If you're, you know, here's the first approach would be, the dumb approach that I would have taken years ago, would have been just to say, oh, let me just try C major because it's in C, or then I'll try C minor pentatonic, and then I'll play some other things that are C based because it starts with the chord progression starts with a C. And, you know, you'd be amazed. I didn't know any theory back in the day, and you'd be amazed how often that simply works. But let's try it here, and you'll see it has some sour points to it, okay? So I'm going to try it here. It's going to be some sourness here. Ooh. Okay, so that didn't work. So C major's out. I can't just use C major. Well, let me try C minor pentatonic because that's always good. Or how about C major pentatonic? This feels kind of happy. So let's try C major pentatonic. Well, let's see if that works. Maybe that'll work. Okay, we're having trouble there. And it's always in the same spot. We'll try one more, okay, just to kind of bring home the point. I won't try all the, you know, C mixolydian. Let's play this other. We're not going to do that. Okay, we'll try one more. We'll try C minor pentatonic because, you know, that often works. Okay, here we go. The weird thing is I could probably get away with that. And when I was younger, I probably did. That's probably what I would have done. The problem with playing a minor pentatonic is it's not very melodic and it doesn't really fit the song very well, which is kind of like this doo-wop, kind of a pretty thing. So another approach is to find the chord that doesn't fit. Well, it's not much of a mystery in this case. We're keeping it pretty simple. It's the 4 chord, right? So in this case, if we pick the key of C, my 2 chords a D minor, my 3 chords an E minor, my 4 chords an A is an F major, right? If we're doing triads. So we're substituting a minor, so it's not going to work. So there's a couple of different approaches that we can take to this. The first approach is just to isolate that chord and to think, okay, for everything else, I'm playing just C major. Or why don't we try the first thing is just to play chord by chord, which I think is, it's slow enough that you can do that. And it makes sense. So we'll just literally play chord by chord. I'll be very kind of boring in my play here, but you'll see that it works. Okay, so it's boring. It wasn't too exciting, but it always works. So when you're playing with the chords, the playing chord tones is going to sound okay. You're not going to hit wrong notes. So one of the issues when you pick scales is sometimes there's a lot of in-between notes that just don't sound so good. So that's the first approach. The second approach would be to think modally. So think, okay, over the 1 chord, I'm going to play Ionian mode. On the 5 chord, I'm going to play Mixolydian mode, G Mixolydian, which is the same as C major, right? Those are both C major. But over the 3 chord, I'm going to play some mode, right? So over the 3 chord, I might play, what are my choices? My choices are I could play F Dorian, or I could play F Aeolian, right? F minor. So there's a couple of different things. So we can try that, right? So F, let's just keep it simple, right? So if over F, I play F minor, that's the same as A flat major, right? So we could try that and see how that works. So I could play C major over the other chords, and over F I could play A flat major. Let's try that. What the heck? Let's try it. All right, here we go. Again, I'll play simple stuff. I'm not liking it so much. What's interesting is that there are going to be chords that work well. I mean, it would work. It would be okay. But let's try Dorian now. So that would mean instead of playing instead of playing F minor or A flat major, we're going to play E flat major. And you can see the chords are it's going to sound a little bit different. You might like it more. Let's see. When you're playing something sweet, it matters. Gotta play it right though. Let's try that again. So that works pretty sweet. I think that those are some sweet sounds, right? And it's really kind of dramatic just to find a mode that works. Now, what I did and what I'm most comfortable with, I'll freely admit, is to think about the modes in terms of what major scale do they come from. Now, that takes a little bit of thought and pre-thought, but you know, that's, and then you have to emphasize the chord tones that you're playing over. Right, so it's not just wailing on the E major scale, on the E flat major scale, but it is thinking of what are the. I'm going to definitely emphasize, like, say, an F. I'm going to definitely emphasize a C. I'm definitely going to emphasize a G sharp because that's the minor. This note right here. That's going to be a key thing. One of the things that so that's one way that you can do it. And that's not so bad. Mr. Thomas V says, why no love for the pentatonic? You can play pentatonic in this, but it calls out for something more melodic, and you're going to want more in between notes. And again, there's things that you can do. You could play the F minor pentatonic over that. It might sound good too. Let's try that. Let's play the C major pentatonic and the F minor pentatonic. Let's try that. So that's a reasonable thing to do. Let's try it. I'm cheating a little bit. Just trying to play the scales to show how it works. So it'll work. You can you can do it that way if you want. I think again, it's kind of calling out for those single string kind of hammer-ons and pull-offs, or single note and single note bends. You know, that kind of stuff. And that's where, you know, using a couple of extra notes helps a lot. All right. Yeah. So you can certainly play pentatonics there. The thing that I like to do, another approach that I really like to do is to isolate that chord within that. So it's a kind of scale chord approach. It's to say, over the progression is basically C major. And you can approach it with C major, or you can approach it with C major pentatonic. You can even approach it with F major pentatonic, but you can approach it, let's say, with C major pentatonic or with C major. For the folks on here who love pentatonic, let me do that. So I'll play C major pentatonic. Okay, I'll try not to hit the other notes that are there like I did the last time. And then over F minor, I'm going to just play chord tones. In fact, I'm going to just play the third for the most part. But I'm just going to emphasize chord tones. I may use some chromatics to get there, but I'm just going to play the chord tones. All right? So the key chord tone, remember, is that G sharp, because that's the difference between the major and the minor. So that G sharp is a key chord tone to be able to play. So, you know, there's some stuff that we can emphasize in there. So that's what I'm going to play. I'm just going to play C major pentatonic, and then over the F minor, I'm going to play chord tones. And I tell you, this is an easy way to do it. Easy way, easy peasy. It's like you're just playing one scale, but you're listening for that one chord change, and then when it happens, you're on it. All right, here we go. One more time. I lied. I didn't use chord tones there. All right, there we go. So sorry, I can't help myself when I'm doing those double stops to really kind of sometimes play the chord. So I didn't quite use a C major pentatonic throughout that whole thing. But the key thing was just over that F minor to emphasize the chord tones. Now, on that last one, I kind of really, very deliberately and not too artfully, played chromatics. And the key coming out of it is to make sure you hit a chord tone when you're coming out of that instead of just wailing on a scale. And I always think that that's, in a lot of ways, when you're playing outside in any sort of way, playing over a chord that doesn't fit, or you're trying to play an outside sound, the key to it is coming back in on a chord tone, and usually the third. If you come in on the third, it's going to sound great. It's just going to sound great. But to me, that's the key. Getting the tempo right so you land, when you want to come back in, you land on a chord tone. All right. Plexatonic, hexatonic. The hexatonic would work, of course. Of course. Again, I think it's an endless game of playing what scale is going to work. So I just gave you a few different systems. The first is, I think, wrong. Let's find one scale that fits everything. I think that's just a bad way to do a slow song like this. If you're playing a really fast song, maybe, but when the chords are really deliberate and slow, you should really think about how can I play melodically over that and really emphasize the changes. This is without a singer. So if you had the vocalist, you should be thinking about what's the melody of that song. I know I harp on this a lot and people roll their eyes on it, but you should be thinking of what's the melody of that song and trying to echo that a little bit, or echo other things that you've heard and incorporate it. That's why I'm very big on learning melodies, because you can incorporate them into other songs. And listeners hear that, and they enjoy that much more than they enjoy, that the minor and major pentatonic scale type stuff. They're gonna like that. Most listeners are not guitar players, so they won't appreciate that. How about that? How's that? Fusion jazz, anyone? Okay. So anyway, let's incredibly subjective all feel. I don't know. I don't think it's subjective. It's a lot of ear. And it's a lot of getting used to where those notes are and translating that. But there's many approaches. There's many approaches that you can take. Maybe you were talking about something else, Scott, so I don't know. All right. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so Mr. Thomas V says, amazing how creative some great guitarists are with the pentatonic. Yeah, so one of the things I think that we get really wrapped around the axle on is what to play. I've harped on this as well, is what to play, not how to play. And you can play the same line in so many different ways, in an infinite number of ways. And in fact, Frank Vignola was talking about that, developing a facility for rhythm. All you have to do is change the rhythm in which you play the notes, and you've played an original sequence. You've played a new sequence. So in a 3-line or 4-line, 4-note line, there's an infinite number of ways to play that just by varying the rhythm. And then, you can vary in how you articulate it as well. Guthrie Govan said the same thing. He said the beauty of growing up and learning stuff in the 80s was that everybody played the same notes. You listen to it, that everybody's playing the same notes. It's not complicated to know what they're playing and say, all right now, or stranglehold, or all that. It's very simple. It's very obvious. It's how it was played that makes the difference. So anyway, pretty cool stuff. Melodic minor scale over that. Yeah, you can play that. I wouldn't, because I'm not I don't do that too much. But I'm not saying that it's wrong, but you could do it. There's a few places where I've used melodic minor, but not there. All right. Albert King, yeah, that's right. Scott Taylor says Albert King. I mean, what did Albert King only had like 5 licks? But somehow he made every song sound great. So there you go. All right. Gotta admire somebody like that. So Mr. Thomas V, very astute comment. Okay, well, if there's no comments, let me... So David Smith, when you say different techniques, what do you mean? Like, sliding to it? Like if we want to do, right, the Albert King lick, right? There's that. That's Albert King. You could do... Right, that's a different way of playing. Maybe not better. Or... You can play it in a lot of different ways. You can change the sound of the guitar as well. You play it different places closer to the bridge, closer to here. All that's different. All that's going to be different. Same notes, but different lick, right? I'm not saying it was better. All right. There we go. Yeah, for sure, Scott. The more you play, and especially with other people, it's good to play with better musicians than you are. That's a huge advantage if you can do that. If you can find better musicians than you are, you can learn a lot. Yeah, you can do natural minor, Charles. There's a couple of notes that don't really work all that well in a natural minor, right? So, So if we were playing... It's this one right here. That C sharp doesn't work so well, so you got to avoid that. You don't have to, but you got to play it as a passing note. You can't land on it. I don't know. You know what? Charlie Parker could land on it, and he'd make it sound good, but I don't know how to do that. All right. Yeah. Yeah, you can play harmonic minor. It sounded weird, but you could do it. All right, well, let me change guitars here. Let's play another thing. Let's improv a little bit. We're going to do a little psychedelic stuff. Let's see how Born Under a Bad Sign, a Clapton version, is played on one string. Is it? Yeah, I don't know the Clapton version. I got to trim my nail because I hacked it up pretty bad in the opening. It's hurting, so I got to trim it. Sorry. Yeah. Ow. I hate when I do that. I just pick the string in a bad way and it just hacks up my nail. Break it. All right. See y'all. Gotta plug in the song. All right, let's go. This is a little bit psychedelic. Have I ever owned a Martin? Yeah, I still do. I used to have a bunch of them. Now I only have one Martin. Scott Taylor, I used to play, just so you know, I used to play exclusively bluegrass for about 4 years. That's all I played was bluegrass. All right, let's see if we can do this. Got my notes. I was trying to learn it this morning. Learn the chords. G minor. Very Pink Floyd. Oh. One more time. All right. Well, that was kind of fun, long and slow. So let's go over that progression a little bit, because there are a couple of things. I wish I would have played a little bit more beforehand, but there are a couple of things to think about in there. And that one key, the Gilmore-esque thing, as somebody was saying, that note right there is pretty cool. So, and it requires, I think it requires some special attention. So basically, it's a pretty simple progression. We've got a G minor or G minor 7. And then we've got something like a C sus, C7 sus to a C7. Okay, and then we've got the old. Let me take off some stuff here so you can hear it. We've got the old minor major trick. So we're playing a C minor and we're lowering the bass each time. So there's different ways of naming these chords, but here's a regular C minor triad, and we're just gonna lower this, lower the bass note. It's a minor major chord or an augmented chord. And here's our minor 7 and our minor 6th. That's the Michelle progression. If you guys don't recognize that, that's in Michelle. Like, right? You've heard that before, I'm sure. So that's what's there. And that's nice to emphasize that little thing as well. You can play lots of things over that. You can play... It's related to a F7 chord, so you could play like an F mixolydian over that. It would sound great. There's other things that you can do on that, or just emphasize that kind of thing. You can play a C minor. That works okay too. All right, over that. So that's that part of that. So then it goes back to our G minor, and then. Okay, and then the second time it just goes. That's a Hendrix chord, so that's our D7 sharp 9. Pretty cool, and it's transitioning then to something like, oops, I'm sorry, E flat 7, major 7, C minor 7. then G minor. In our progression, or our Gilmore-esque thing, right? And then it does it again. I play an F6/9 chord there. There's our D7 sharp 9 again. So there's a couple of different places where it's going to work really well. Over the first part, so Mr. Thomas V, over the first part, you could play like a G minor pentatonic, or you could play an F. You could play an F Dorian. Sounds really good because of that. Oops. It's that note right there that sounds cool. So you could do that. Over this part, over that part, you can play a G minor scale, and it sounds really good. So that natural minor, that it's not so much that E, but you want that E flat that's going to sound good over that because you're playing that E flat major. Right? But over the G minor. Anyway, so pretty cool stuff. And it's interesting to me, like you take something really simple like that, and if you really kind of dig into the chords and don't just rely on, okay, what being safe. You know the safe stuff, right? The safe stuff is just play a G minor pentatonic. That's safe. It's all safe stuff. So just play a G minor pentatonic and you're going to be okay. But do you just want to be okay? Do you want to play something that sounds good, right? So there's lots of scope for creativity, and the chords just give you an idea for that, and the different modes give you an idea for that. You could simply emphasize the chords. I mean, that's one of the things that I was doing or trying to do. I was trying to emphasize this over that chord progression, that little lick. So, yeah, really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. I love playing this stuff. I could just put on like something like this and just try different sounds on that all day. Bass is a bit overpowering. Okay. Let's see. Let's go back to the other. Let me go back to the other. First chord rhyme was a G minor 7. It's really a G minor 7 that you're playing here. But I don't know. I like thinking of it as C7 sharp, suspended fourth, because that's a device that's used a lot. Okay, let us see. Hey, Braideraid. I like it. Hello and welcome. All right, let's try. Let's go back to this. And so I don't know. I mean, the other thing I think that's really kind of important, and I don't know if I was getting it or not, but I was trying to do it, is to try and play a lot slower, right? So in this sense, every note that you're playing is a little more high stakes when you're doing that, and it kind of fits the the mood, though. You know, if you come out and play too much of the, ooh, that's loud. How about this? You know, if you play that kind of stuff, it's not going to sound right, at least to me. It's just going to sound wrong. Unless you play like one run or two in there where it's really dramatic, then it can work. But, yeah. Would I ever move back to the Midwest? Well, that is an interesting thing. I'll tell you what I wouldn't do. I wouldn't move back to... I wouldn't move... I'm not going to go there in this middle of this pandemic. But would I ever move back to Midwest? Of course I would. There are situations where I would, sure. Any place has some redeeming qualities. I guess maybe I wouldn't move to Antarctica or the middle of the Sahara, but that's just me. What key is that? Well, the progression was kind of G minor, right? Or you could maybe get away with saying it was an F major key, right? That's what I said. Did I say F Dorian? I meant G Dorian. If I said F Dorian, I apologize for that. Can you show us a diminished run and application? Sure, Charles. Sure. So, diminished run. So, where the first question to ask would be, where would a diminished chord be used, right? So there's lots of different places where a diminished chord is used. You know, if you're playing an old style, oh gosh. You know, if you're playing something like that, old style, like four to the floor sort of style rhythm, a diminished chord is going to be used in that just as a passing tone, right? But there are a couple of places where diminished is going to be okay, where it's often used. Let's take a slow blues, because I think this is a good one to do it. And one place where it's often used is between the transition between the 1 chord and the 4 chord. So if we just take, let's take a blues in G, okay? So if we're taking a blues in G, straight blues, so we'll maybe make it sevenths, and we'll do a quick change, okay? So okay. So actually, before we do that, let me just do one other thing. So we're doing the 1 chord. Let me play majors now. There's a reason for this. I'm playing a major. So did you notice before I went there, before I went to the 4 chord, I played a 7th. Now that's just very common. It's what's called a secondary dominant. So I'm pretending for a second, even though I don't really think this way, I could say, theory-wise, I'm pretending that I'm going to a new key center, which is C. And so I'm playing a dominant. Anytime you do that, you can think of, hey, I can put in a diminished run over that. So that between the 1 chord and the 4 chord on a blues is a great place to do it. So let's try to see what that would look like. Okay? So, and I want you to remember the one thing I said before, I don't care where you're playing. If you're playing outside, you got to hit a chord tone when you get back inside. So let me show how that might work. So if we're playing the 1 chord, which is a G, that's for Mr. Thomas V. That's my pentatonic. So I could play a diminished run right there, for example. So if I'm playing my 1 chord, and here's my run, and I can break that tension right there. The key is to trust that you're going to end up on a chord tone when you're moving toward it, and it usually works pretty well. So you know, you can do it that way too. So so that's a good place to put it. You know, you can do a different diminished run. Let me try a different one. there too. Anytime there's a transition, you can use the diminished run. You just have to be mindful of coming to something where you're going to resolve. So anytime there's a tradition or transition where you could use a diminished chord, you can throw in a diminished scale. Another thing that you can easily do, I think it's an easier way to get outside sound, is just to realize that you can play the same flavor of a chord a half step up. Listen to this. This is really simple stuff, right? So if I'm playing a, let's say I want to make this jazzy, I'm playing a blues. I'm playing a one chord. Or I'm playing, let me just play it straight first. So let's jazz it up a little bit more. There's lots of different ways you could do this. One simple way to do that is simply to play an approach chord. What's an approach chord? An approach chord is a chord of the same flavor, a half step up or half step below. So check it out. That's all I'm going to do is do exactly that. Okay, now it gets a little bit boring after you're doing that. You want to add some other flavor. But because of that, because you can do that, sounds good, you could play an arpeggio of that particular chord before you go to it. Check this out. So, you know, if I'm playing my one chord, so that run right there is has an outside sound really quickly. You know, as long as I get onto a chord tone, I sound good. All I'm really doing is playing a simple arpeggio, a half tone up or a half tone below. And it sounds kind of good. All right. All right, let's see. Let me read a little bit. It's going to change your pentatonic. You should be either Mr. Strat or Mr. Pentatonic, Mr. Thomas V. All right, what's the difference between actual blues and bluesy stuff? Well, you know, you got to be a little bit careful about saying what's actual blues, what's bluesy stuff. Allman Brothers certainly played some real blues, right? I think the main thing is you've got some form of a 1-4-5, right? And you can jazz that up as much as you want. You can play Coltrane blues or Bird blues, or whatever, and that's still the blues. So that doesn't matter, but it's got that structure. It's 12 bar usually, or sometimes an 8 bar structure. But the key thing is it's syncopated. Blues is syncopated. Rock is not, for the most part. So this is blues. This is rock. You know, when Zeppelin does rock and roll, it's not. It's all right. Hopefully that helps. All right. Allman Brothers played a lot of major pentatonic blues, not always, but a lot. They played major-y type of blues. Yep. I tend to like the major-y type of blues, and I tend to think major when I play blues instead of minor pentatonic. And that requires more changes. It's because I listen to players like Larry Carlton and Robin Ford, and I like them a lot. And I like jazzier type of stuff, so... and I like the Freddie King, you know, the big slow blues. I love that stuff. So for that, you gotta be able to not just wail on a minor pentatonic. You gotta play some you got to play some notes from those chords and be mindful of the changes. And so it leads you to thinking about things a little bit differently. You can use it a half step above a target dominant. Yeah. Yeah. We can get into which diminished scale you're going to use, but yeah. Yep. Wayne Johnson, way common in a shuffle. Blues has evolved. Yep. Ever looked at Peter Buck's playing? It's not drawing. I probably have, but it's not immediately coming to mind. Big Star's guitar work. I like Big Star a lot. I like the sounds that they got. Good sounds. I like the Ballad of El Goodo. Love that song. I think I did one of the songs. It wasn't In the Street. It was Back of My Car, maybe. I can't remember. I did one of theirs. Yeah. Yeah, the melodic minor stuff is interesting, like the stuff that Josh Smith does, and I mean he got that from Larry Carlton and Robin Ford as well. Robin Ford will do the melodic minor, the same sort of idea, or the super Locrian mode if you want to think about it that way. But yeah, I don't do that a lot. Scott Henderson did that a ton as well, I think. Do I start a diminished run on the root or a half step below? I don't know. And here's why I don't know, Charles. I play out of chord forms. I don't think about scales. I try not to think about scales. So for diminished runs, I always think that a diminished happens. I can resolve a diminished one half step up with a seventh chord. So for example, that stuff that I was doing in the beginning, of the show, when I played that C diminished, and then I played the C7, that I know that like if I play this, you can always move the diminished up a minor third. You're always going to find a seventh right there, or usually by altering one or two fingers. So for example, if I play this, here's my C7 right here. And in fact, a diminished is really just a seventh chord with an altered bass. There's my C7, and here's my C. Here's my diminished. So, I just think of really of the. I just think of the chord forms that I'm playing out of. The one that I find most useful is what's called a double diminished, and I learned it from Robin Ford, and it's out of the main, I would say with the root on the sixth, seventh chord. So if I'm playing a G7, the diminished run that I have is played out of this. I think of this little triangle, which is kind of the kernel of a G7, and I know I can do every other note. I know I can do that. And one of the things that's really nice about that is you can jam to it in a compact form in a position. You can do that. And that happens every minor third. So that's how I do it. Good way or not, that's usually how we do it. I mean, there are times when I'll play from the root, right? When I play. But I don't know the notes as well as I probably should, so it's unfortunate. All right. Anyway, I don't know if that helps, but I think of chord forms when I play. That's what I think of. All right. So with diminished isn't always whole step, half step intervals. Well, this one is a whole step, half step, right? This is a double diminished. A diminished is usually all minor thirds. So if the regular diminished is, that's a diminished. That's a diminished arpeggio, I guess. And so if you want to double that, you do half step, whole step, half step, whole step, right? That's half step, whole step. How do I influence triads when soloing? All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me how do I use triads when soloing? TBA is going to go nuts here because that's what I do all the time. I use triads all the time. So one of the ways that I do that is I know the triads, the major minor triads really well, and particularly I know them on the strings 4, 3, and 2. And so if I know, for example, I know this is an E minor triad with a root on the second string. And here's another E minor triad with a root on the third string. And now I need one on the fourth string. And there's one right there. So if I know some things that I can do with those triads, like if I know something that sounds E minor-y out of this triad, I can play that anytime to get that sound. So that's how I'm using the triads. I'm really kind of thinking about, like, when I want to anchor on a chord tone, I'm thinking about those triads. I think that helps a lot to what you're going to play. And it's a safe way to play. Well, it gives me a lot of comfort because I know that I can always land on a chord tone and it's going to sound okay. So if I'm, I can play chromatically as long as I don't take too much time doing it. And if I keep my time, which I don't always, I'm not as good as I could be, for sure. But if I keep my time, I'm always going to anchor it. So let's take that modal progression that we did early on. Remember this one? I don't know if you remember it, but let's do it quickly. And then I got one more that I can improvise to, and then I think I'm going to hit it. Okay, so here's my chord progression. Okay, so here's a C, G, F minor, and C. Now, when I solo, we went over this earlier, there's all sorts of different ways that I can approach a solo there. I'll use Mr. Thomas V's approach, and I'll use a C major pentatonic, but for F minor, I got to do something else. I can't use a C major pentatonic, so I might just hit chord tones, or I might use an E flat major, and we discussed why that was the case, why that worked really well. But I'm using those triads to anchor where I want to end up. I use my ear a lot to be able to do that, but those triads really help when I want to intellectualize and find good what's called voice leading, right? So I know, for example, if I'm going from an F minor to a C major, that sequence right here is going to be nicely melodic because the listener's ear doesn't have to jump all over the place, and it doesn't have to go like, which is a big jump. It's very easy. It's like a vocalist would do. And I know it's a chord tone on the C because there's my triad. So it helps me just think of stuff like that. So I might come up with a line that sounds kind of nice. All right, so that's kind of how I use, one of the ways I use triads in solo. So I think about them, even if I'm thinking scales, I want to envision where those chords are, and it's easy to think in triads. It's easier to think about triads than pretty much anything else in terms of chords. And And what did Joe Pass said that there's only 3 chords anyway. There's a major, there's a minor, and there's a seventh, and everything else is window dressing. So if you can think in terms of those 3, that's a lot. Right? A diminished, as I just discovered before, or talked about before, diminished is really just a seventh, the different bass note. Okay. Let's see. Mark, do you ever use triads of all of a key melody chords in a song in one position on the next, say the 5th? I'm not sure what the question is. Does that mean like if I'm using I always do that. So if I think, for example, if I'm playing this song, I know I have a C, a G, and an F. I want to know those all over the place, but I want to be able to get to them quickly. So for example, here's a C, here's a G, here's my F minor, here's my C. Or I can go up here. Here's my C, here's my G, here's my F minor, and my C. Right? If I come up to, I don't know, if I come up to here, here's a C, here's an F, oops, I'm sorry, here's a G, here's an F minor, and a C. And I want to be able to get that pretty quickly. So, you know, that helps me really navigate and understand sort of what, like people get on pentatonic shapes. If you know those triads, it should be easy to know the pentatonic shapes out of those triads. So you can solo over those pentatonic shapes if you are so inclined. That's one way you can do that. All right. Yeah, good. Awesome. It helps. All right. Yeah, it's nice to do. I don't like it, as if most people who are on here know, I make lots of mistakes in my improv. And I'm not trying to make mistakes, but I am trying to do things that are new. I try to do things that I hear that I want to play, and just try and play them on the spot. And if I don't get them, I don't get them. I can move on. If I were playing for EMI Records and I were backing up somebody in a concert with thousands of people, I wouldn't do that. That's different. But if I were playing in a club, I would. So anyway, let's see. Yes, but do I use other trains that are in the key but not one of the songs? So yes, you can do that too. So yeah, over that C, you can play any of those triads that are in the key. So you can play a C, you can play a D minor, E minor, F major, or F major 7, G7. They're all fair game. You just have to make sure that when you get to the next chord that you're okay. And over the G, it doesn't matter, but over that F minor, then it really does. You can't be playing keys and the triads in the key of C and this key of C major anymore. All right, that's maybe for a different day. But cool stuff. Cool stuff. Again, Robin Ford was a guy who totally opened me up to that idea. He started just playing triads over the key as an improvisation technique, and I was like, oh, you can do that? That's simple. I didn't know. And actually, he was just playing, I think he was playing the key of C, and he would just play C, F, and G over and over, all over the place, and play them in a neat rhythm, and it sounded cool. So instead of improvising like over a scale, he was just playing those chords. I'm like, you don't have to be Wes Montgomery to do that. That's really simple stuff. It's just a question of like getting the technique down and getting your rhythm good. The hard part is the rhythm on that, and that is kind of hard. So, all right. Let's see. Let's do one more. Let's do this one. I was digging this one earlier. Let me review what this is first. I just played it. I just learned the chords this morning, so it might not be. Let me change picks too. I'll change to my jazz pick. I don't know why. All right, let's put a little. No, I don't know if I like that. Let's see how this sounds. Let's go with it. Let's go. etc. And etc. That was fun. All right. Well, that was a really fun one. I don't know if you like that kind of stuff, but I kind of dig it. I dig playing the different sounds and using those open notes. It's kind of Van Halen-ish, isn't it? Let's see. You know, that kind of, what is that, Top of the World, I think it is. Van Halen's Top of the World. But that was kind of indie rock, so using a lot of those open strings, right, those dronings. And what I like about that one is the chord progression stays kind of the same, but the song kicks up and builds. So it gives you scope to change the pickups and all that kind of stuff, which is really fun. Add delay or add, you know, more gain. Move up the neck. A lot of fun. All right. Let's see if we can catch up here. Looks like some people are taking off. See you, Wayne. Thanks, Charles. Room 336 when it came out. Didn't even know about Larry. Oh, Room 30. Okay, I was going to say, I don't know about Room 336. Sister Golden Hair. Yeah. Well, it has that that minor in there. So now this is a case of you can play diatonically the whole time. It's all E major, right? So it's E, and then there's basically G minor to C sharp minor, A, and then F sharp minor to A. That's part A. That's the first part. The second part is a little bit different, and it what does it do? It goes A to C sharp minor. To A, E, it does that twice, and then the second time it does the it goes to, you know, this is when it's really kicking up the song. E, then C sharp minor to A, and again, and then F sharp minor to A. So it's all diatonic. It's all in the key of E, and the key is, I think, to use a lot of those open notes and to go up the neck and end high. So you're starting new, low, and there's lots of stuff you can do. You can use pedal notes too, which is kind of cool. You can do that kind of stuff, which sounds good. And anyway, you can use those pull-offs on the first string too, which I was trying to do a little bit. I didn't do enough. Right? And if you're really clever, you can use a double pull-up. You know, that kind of stuff. But anyway, I digress. All right. Yeah, I think I really kind of dig this Harley Benton. I think it's good. It's a good guitar. It plays great. The only thing I don't like about it, fretboard edges are not rolled, and you know I don't want to ruin the finish. So I think you can roll it like with a screwdriver if you want to, but this is, you know, it's one of those roasted maple necks. I don't want to ruin it. So could I show the guitar body for a second? Yes, indeed. This is the front. Let's see if I can get a good light on it here. This is the front. Pretty nice. It's got, you can see it's got a Wilkinson trem. And oh, you know what I didn't do? Oh, I was all set to kick in the humbucker at the end, and I didn't do it. I just put it on the bridge pickup. I was going to kick in the humbucker, but I left it on the single coil. So I was playing single coil. So it's got coil splits, which is nice because if you want to play you know, I play a lot of the sort of, I play a lot of the, I play a lot of that kind of stuff. It helps with coil splits. The humbucker's often too much, you know, too much sound. It's okay, but anyway, so it's got those coil splits, and then here's the back, which is also nice. It's got that nice recess right there, you see, and the neck is also recessed. So you can access the frets up here really easily compared to a normal Telly. I like it. It's a nice guitar. I'm shocked at how nice it is. Stainless steel frets. Locking tuners too. They're no brands, but they're pretty good. So the Wilkinson trem is amazingly good. Shockingly good. Hey, thanks, Anton. Thank you. I'm anonymous. All right, gang. It's been an hour and a half, and I'm getting kind of tired. So you want to just take it out on some blues? Let's just take it out on some blues, yeah? Guns of Navarone. Okay, well, there we go. Turn it down a little bit. All right, Climb Tibet. Okay, yeah, excellent. Glad it was helpful to you, Climb Tibet, and thanks for coming on. Really enjoy it. Okay, when folks are on, let's play a little slow blues. We'll just play a little slow blues, and we will. Yeah. right. See ya, everybody. I'm going to call it a day. Thanks again for everybody who is, and thank you, Mark. Really appreciate the super chat. Always nice to get that as well. Thanks again to everybody who donated to the channel and contributed. Thanks to all of you for showing up today and for watching my videos and liking the videos. Do, as you're exiting, please, I hate to do this, but please click the like button on this if you enjoyed the show in any way. Do that, and it helps the channel a lot. And that's about it. We'll see you on down the road. Maybe next Sunday. I'm thinking next Sunday we'll see each other again. Okay, I'll see ya. And again, thanks for everybody for coming on. A special thanks to Matt, who's always here first, and a special thanks to all the old gang at Rondo. We're always wishing you the best of health. And to all the new folks, too. Climb Tibet, great seeing you on, and a few of the others as well. If I don't see you beforehand, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. All right. We'll see ya.